pretty new here, where players are going to try to get an edge in the Sultai Mirror, and can other decks take advantage of that fact? We're seeing, as I mentioned, for Alexander Gordon-Brown, who's had a very, very nice tournament, win or lose the finals here, the Brazen Borrowers, the Shark Typhoons, the E2 Extinctions, the main deck copies of Mystical Dispute. We thought that was a thing of the past once Team of Reclamation and Wilderness Reclamation and Teferi rotated out, but we see 2 main deck copies here. So it seems as though we're seeing a player here in Gordon-Brown that has certainly built their deck with the mirror in mind, less removal. I'm seeing a deck with no eliminates, no Heartless Axe in the main deck. It's notable. I think it's notable.
Narset seems like a pretty key addition. So much of what the deck does involves drawing an extra card in the way that you're getting paid out. The deck is not especially good at attacking Planeswalkers early on in the game. And, later on in the game, it can get crowded out by more powerful stuff. It doesn't catch you back up from losing positions necessarily. But Narset does seem like an important starting point if you're gunning for the mirror.
Totally agree. Totally agree with you, partner. So these players are going to take a look at those hands. Those opening hands. Looks like Ether Augustus is going to head to the bottom here for Alexander Gordon-Brown. And you can already see a hand here for Ishibashi, with 2 eliminates, which, nope. I mean, that card's fine, but this isn't really this really isn't the matchup that you're looking to have it for. Makes sense why it's there, but it's, I would say, less than ideal. So here we go. It's a breeding pool to kick it off here in our finals of another Star City Games Tour Online Championship Qualifier. Yeah, cycle a Shark Typhoon. Somebody needs a land drop. X will be 0. Let's draw Casualty. No, excuse me, that was a Triumph. Let's make it 2 Triumphs. Casualty Wars on the far left. Nissa, Narset, 2 copies of Eliminate. So we head back over to Alexander Gordon-Brown, AGB as I will call them on occasion here. And it's time to try to deploy that Narset card. That's very, very good in the matchup. But you already see here for Gordon-Brown, you see some of the changes in deck building and how they are impacting things. Negate and Mystical Dispute in hand.
Yeah, and I think the combination of that plus the possibility of Brazen Borrow as well means that Ishibashi wants to just play something safe this turn, not something that's vulnerable to counterspells or a 3-power flyer.
And I would say that's about as safe as it comes right there. So Ura's going to resolve. Brazen Borrower, hey, how about we get a little bit aggressive right now? So going to be able to get in at least 3 points of damage. These Eliminates will have a target here momentarily. So I don't think we're going to try to play a Protect the Queen style game with Brazen Borrower from Gordon-Brown. So here's your attack for 3. And we'll see what the follow-up will be. It's just going to be a Fabled Passage past that turn back. Hydroid Crisis to draw here for Ishibashi.
So if you knew what Gordon-Brown's hand was, I think you would want to play 2 copies of Eliminate, because everything else here represents your entire turn and won't resolve. But it is kind of a mopey turn to try to do it that way. I suppose with the Brazen Borrower on the battlefield, the Narsets become less powerful enough such that you should try killing the Brazen Borrower first, even if your turn's a little less efficient as a result. I could also, I guess, be talked into Crisis for 1 here. Just to try to find a land and spend all your mana.
Okay.
But if Ishibashi isn't playing anything, I imagine that means Eliminate and maybe a second Eliminate if it should go that way.
Now here comes the Borrower. We'll see what the follow-up is. It'll just be an island, and Eliminate's going to resolve, most likely. Be a little surprised if it didn't, I suppose. So there it goes, Eliminate. All right, Brazen Borrower down. That exchange is made. Land is drawn. So there's land number 5 here for Gordon-Brown. Looks like we might be leading out with Narset. It's a powerful one, and one that you really don't want to resolve, I presume. And Negate's going to take care of that. So, force the play, kick it back. We're heading back over to Alexander Gordon-Brown now. Not a great hand right now for AGB. There's a Hydro Crisis that you're not in love with the idea of tapping out for.
Yeah, but how long are you going to just sit on this Mystical Dispute? Your hand's bad enough that you kind of need to look at multiple new cards. There's some risk here, but sitting back, it's not like you're going to be able to fend off Catastrophe forever just with a mystical dispute.
Well, I think you're right about that. So Crisis is going to come down. Gordon Brown agreed with you. E2 Extinction and Thought Erasure were the draw. Eliminate will take care of the resolved Crisis. And now there's the window to resolve a Nissa. Or something else. It could be Narset. It looks like, well. Wait for it. Definitely giving this a thought is Ishibashi. Remember, deck lists are public here. They are all tournament long, not just in the top 8, of course. So, it'll be Nissa. Nissa's going to target an island. An island will be attacking.
You have a preference here to try to do Nissa and a play in the same turn. And often, when that's not available, there's something better that you can do with your mana. So it is worth a double look there. But I think the battlefield's clean enough. And next turn gets so good with Crisis and Casualties of War, however it goes, that if your Nissa survives, you should be in a really commanding position. So I like playing it there, even though you didn't have the optimal sequence of doing it and then following it up with another big play.
Looks like a land game rolling off the top. We're going to see E2 Extinction here. Make sure we don't confuse the two. E2 Extinction is much different than Extinction Event, but there are 2 cards with Extinction that are black that are seeing play right now. So E2 Extinction is going to take care of that Narset, and we head on back. So, Heroes aplenty here for Ishibashi. The easy part is attacking for 3. Take a look at that graveyard. 5 total cards, so Uro needs 1 more Munch on to be able to escape from their jail. And looks like it might just be a Hydroid Crisis. Maybe not. Decisions. Not easy ones here. And this is kind of what we've talked about over the course of this show, right? We've covered 8 Swiss rounds, and now we're in the finals. And we have said, or at least I've said, and I think you agree, but correct me if I'm wrong. This in turns. Well, I know you said this in turns 4, 5, and 6. These decks really only get to play 1 spell a turn, right? Now it's going to be a good card. A Nissa is a very powerful card. A Hydro Crisis is a very powerful card, but you're in 1 spell per turn territory. It's when you get deeper into the game, or when you have a Nissa and you get to untap with it, where you get to play multiple spells in turn. That's when this deck goes in overdrive.
Well, you're not getting that much impact on the battlefield on turns 5 and 6 frequently. That's, I think, where if there's a vulnerability here, that's the thing to look at. Like, Nissa is obviously really powerful. Hydro Crisis is really powerful. But in terms of what you get the turn you play it on those turns, it's really not that much. You have a 3/3 and maybe a little bit of a mana rebate, or you have a 3/3 or 4/4 flyer. Like, this is not an overwhelming thing to be able to beat. It's just when all of it kind of stacks on top of each other that you get overwhelmed.
Here is Thought Eraser after a timely Nissa top deck. So, this discard spell is going to get fired off. We'll take a look. It's going to resolve 2 copies of Uro, Casualties of War, and a Narset. Now remember, there were 5 cards total in the graveyard, 4 plus an Uro in the graveyard. So that means that if you place this, whatever card you put in the graveyard, that means that Uro can escape. But you are also looking at a player here in Gordon Brown whose last card is Mystical Dispute. So, just note all of that stuff from both sides of the battlefield, but also note that because this Thought Eraser has resolved, this surveils a pretty darn big deal. And that card that was on top is headed to the graveyard. So it's a mystery card coming. A land is drawn here for Ishibashi. And we'll see how they want to move forward.
Yeah, I think that you really can't take anything other than Casualties of War there. Just too big of a spike if it happens.
Yep. Well, I will say, you do have Mystical Dispute at the ready to counter whatever the next big spell is going to be. Right, because your Trinome's going to tap for 2, and then your Island taps to the other 1.
But there's no guarantee it goes that way too, right? Like the Ishibashi still has enough like reasonable plays to make with the cards you already know about that they don't have to commit a Casualties this turn necessarily, and might be able to get to a spot down the line where your dispute doesn't line up the right way.
That I agree with you with, absolutely. So Uro has escaped. It's on the battlefield. Not enough mana. Excuse me. There's enough mana to cast Mystical Dispute, but it can simply be paid for. So. Here's Narset. Now, I think you probably got to fight over that one.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to get much better than this. And also, when you're empty-handed, your best draw is Hydroid Krasis, and that is not a possibility if Narset's on the battlefield.
Well, maybe your second best draw is Uro then. So, either way, got to get that Narset out of here. Did that. Uro, a timely top deck, able to play. And I believe enough fodder. Well, there's definitely enough fodder in the graveyard to escape. Yeah, you can see that as Ishibashi took a long look at the graveyard there. So Uro's going to come back from the graveyard. Another card coming here from the big 6/6. Going to gain some life. Well, that was pretty swell back-to-back draws there. We'll see if the fodder racer is going to be fired off or not. But that was pretty nice.
I like fighting over the Narset there. Just chain together a bunch of busted cards.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
All the mana in the world to work with.
Gonna pass that turn back. So Shark Typhoon hanging out in hand here for Ishibashi. You see the copies of Uro. And now here comes the big 6/6. Bringing some beats. Draw, Extinction Event. How does that line up? Well, even doesn't look terrible. Can take care of a bunch of lands. We're going to see an exchange here. Like this exchange from Gordon Brown, because Gordon Brown's got plenty of cards in the graveyard to work with, where Ishibashi does not. And of course, you want to make sure that your Nissa stays on the battlefield. So there's your exchange of Uros. Extinction Event, again, can be for even, and that would kill lands, but, again, worth noting that with Nissa on the battlefield, yeah, you lose 2 lands, it's not your favorite, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much. You have so much mana to work with.
Alright, so Uro will be played for 3, and Breeding Pool's the draw. And if there wasn't any confusion there, I do apologize. Those Uros that are hanging out there, off to the side means in the graveyard. You can see the ones in hand, so can be a little confusing at times on Magic Arena if you're unfamiliar.
Though I do like that they make the live cards in the graveyard a little bit more visible.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Makes things easier for everybody involved, which is good. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2, 4, 5. Access to 6 mana, so it could cycle Shark Typhoon for 4. But I mean, the ceiling is so much higher on that card. Well, we will cycle it. Okay, so let's get a fresh one. Well, another Shark Typhoon looks pretty good. Okay, well, it's a good thing that Narset got killed. Yeah. Yeah. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. My goodness.
And I like a cast here, in part because it's a long-term hedge against Extinction Event, taking care of all your tokens.
Okay.
It's possible if you just cycle your Shark Typhoons, the game could go in such a way that the Extinction Event just gets everything. There's no reason to take that kind of risk when you're this far ahead.
Hey, it's rare that we see this happen with a hard-cast Shark Typhoon. Shaheen Sarani would be proud. We know he was thinking about it a lot earlier in this tournament when we watched him play.
And a spot that was...
He loves it.
In a spot that was way worse.
Yes. I agree with you. Overgrown Tombs heading to the graveyard from the Surveil. Nissa. Gonna fire up the band. And now here comes the big fellow again. So building up a nice little battlefield here, but Extinction Event does look good right now. As we mentioned, even will take care of the lands and the Shark Typhoon tokens.
Well,
but actually, Extinction Event's gone because of the Thought Eraser. So a top deck one looks real nice. is what I guess I'll say. Time to cycle. This will be a 4/4. Breeding Pool. Follow-up. Shark Typhoon. Well, if you thought Shark Typhoon was leaving the format here, that's not true. That card's too good to go.
I think we got a second one about to be hard cast. Next turn.
Okay, well.
Get 6/6 for trouble, and then every draw.
Let's every draw's live then, huh?
Ripping back.
There's a row. Breeding Pool onto the battlefield untapped. That's all 4 of them. Yeah, I don't see that every day. Island? Play it. Gone. Okay. Beatdowns. Yep, no surprise there, at least in my estimation. There's your trade. Follow-up? Exile some cards, break out of jail. Alright. And how about another land? Okay, well, we're going to sacrifice Fabled Passage on the unstepped Will EGB. Get a land, draw an Overgrown Tomb for the turn. Sullivan wants another Hardcast Shark Typhoon, folks. Is that what we're going to get?
I mean, I guess you could just attack first and see how...
See what you draw?
Yeah, if anything happens to the Uro, that would cause you to change.
Well, that answers that. Who says you can't hardcast this card? Who says it? Do whatever you want.
Well, I guess the rebate is the reason to do it now if you're going to animate a land regardless.
Beatdowns. Draw. You hear about that thing? You seen this card? You seen this thing? Kidding me?
Mana, huh?
Yeah. 3? Why?
They'll make them like they used to.
It takes 2 colors of mana. That part's pretty hard. It's not just free. I mean, you got to work for it a little.
I play against a lot of decks in older formats that do not reliably escape the Uro for colored mana reasons. That feels avoidable to me.
I'm inclined to agree.
I've won a lot of games because my opponent has like a field of ruin. Can't get their thing out.
I really need to blow up a land. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's 25-15. Alexander Gordon Brown is in the driver's seat here. Uro's got some real work to do. Let's attack. How about a swamp? How about another land? How's that sound? Shark Typhoon gonna trade. Bang. Cycle of Triome. We need help. We drew Tamiyo. You're gonna get one shot out of this. Better be good. Rebuy. Yep. No surprise there. Extinction event coming on back. Yep. There is EE, and I'm not talking engineered explosives. What's this going to do? Petty theft. We're going to float. Okay. You can't petty theft your own stuff. So Even's going to clean up the lands. Shark Typhoons are still left over, obviously. Uro's an odd. Okay. So Uro can finish off Tamiyo, because it looks like there's only 2 left.
Not a bad looking turn, but still very far behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's step 1, right, to try to get back in this thing? That's what it
Problem
feels
now with two Shark Typhoons on the battlefield. There's so many. Every spell that gets drawn is a major, major problem.
Yeah, there's the one of Disdainful Stroke. That's a delight. But yeah, I'm with you, partner. Every spell that is drawn is a nightmare scenario. I'm with you on that one. And with Brazen Borrower in hand, the more important half of that card is Petty Thefted. You're not even saved. Now, I guess this is a good lead out.
It's not terrible. Before your Uro was going to get Aether Gusted, and now you have the chance to get that thing going.
Yeah.
Again, it's something you're still way behind, but
it's kind of interesting too, because the other thing I was going to mention is like the cycling Shark Typhoon is on the table right now, and making a big shark, because you can't. If there's nothing to cast the Disdainful Stroke on, you can't make a shark. But I guess you could Aether Gust your own Uro and be able to make 2 shark tokens that way. So you do have the ability to do at least a little bit of blocking. But things get a little interesting here.
As long as Gordon Brown's position is just sort of generally good and, accumulating more material, drawing more cards, there's no reason to do anything fancy. Like, your Gust is going to do something somewhere down the line. Your Disdainful Stroke is going to do something somewhere down the line. You don't need to force the issue to get sharks right now. Your position's so commanding with your extra spells, your extra cards, and that every spell yields a bunch of flying tokens.
Yeah, okay. I've seen worse draws than Hydroid Races.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen worse. Yeah, there's a swamp. The land doesn't hurt either.
You see this thing?
Yeah, I have seen this thing, though. Yeah. Crazy cards going around here. Crazy card. How much we want to pay? Because you still want to have mana available for those counter spells. Well, that's pretty darn good. Get a Fabled Passage out there. Play a Thought Erasure. This forces... Well, this gets you 2 sharks. This forces the cycle. X is just going to be the full amount, obviously. Okay. And this is the draw. Well, you can put that straight in the graveyard. Thank you much. Borrower. Maybe we want to bounce a token now, or do we want to wait? Looks like we want to bounce it right now. 2 more sharks. Borrower.
Oh, it's a spell.
Yeah. Sounds a little... that's funny.
Just enough to keep playing.
Yeah, that's why I was like, do you actually want to do it now, or do you want to wait? Because your opponent might rip off Extinction Event. I still think that Gordon Brown is very far ahead, but yeah, just rip that baby off. Giving a fighting chance. And I guess, assuming that Gordon Brown has mana available, actually, Disdainful Stroke does take care of that Extinction Event. Obviously, we see Ishibashi going through the graveyard. So don't have a great feel for how much mana is untapped at this exact moment. It looks like there is at least 2 in the Triomes. Here is Uro. Yes, Overgrown Tomb. Onto the battlefield with you. Oh, we hold it. Oh, tricky. Tricky. Well, you got to fire off, right? You guess you got to try, otherwise you take lethal.
There's no other card in your hand, so yeah.
You gotta give it a shot. Extinction Event is going to get countered by Disdainful Strokes. 2 sharks on the way. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you want a Shark Typhoon to be hardcast, you got it not once, but twice in the same game. So there you go. Alexander Gordon Brown up a game right now over Kotaro Ishibashi. As these players take a look at their sideboards of the Sultan Ramp Mirror, it looks like advantage Ace AGB, at least for right now. Let's talk about those Coalesce shirts there, folks. Some new ones just came out. You can save 10% at checkout when you use gift code SCG at coalesceapparel.shop. You'll see the Mana Flood from the Coalesce Soda Shop line. You'll see the Draco Genius shirt there in the middle from the Coalesce Breaking Pack line, because they are big fans of Breaking Bad. And then for Allie Warfield, Mythic Meebo, she's a big fan of Taco Bell, and so we have a Taco Bell shirt for her, Live Meebo as opposed to Live Moss. You get it. Again, save 10% at checkout. Use gift code SCG at coalesceapparel.shop.
Yo, what's Allie's cut?
Really?
Because I want to know what, when I enter negotiations with Coalesce Apparel and Design, what the market rate is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just ask her. Like, you could save me. It's a pain. You could
know what I mean? You can ask her, or you can ask me when we're not live on camera.
I don't know.
No?
You're
pressuring me right now.
More leverage now.
I know.
Whatever, I'll think about
it. You're leveraging me right into the ground in front of all the people. It's just, I would say it's unbecoming of you, but that's not true at all.
Yeah, all right.
It's your go-to.
Just open up.
It's like you're finishing me.
Open up messages here. While we're in between games.
There you go. For you, bud, nothing. You get nothing and you like it. That's what I would say. Take a look. Thought Erasure. A couple of Tamios. A couple of lands.
I think that line of play from Gordon Brown last game was really heads up. When you're that far ahead, you can't lose a short game. So then the thought process becomes, well, how could I lose a long game? And the answer is just cycling off these Shark Typhoons to try to close it out, getting tagged with an Extinction event, and then now we're playing again. So by casting those Shark Typhoons, Gordon Brown was able to cinch up both sides of the game. Had a commanding position in the short game, and also was heavily advantaged going long, because the Shark Typhoons on the battlefield just increase the leverage of any spell drawn by so much.
Yeah. That's really true. I mean, we don't see Shark Typhoon hardcast a lot, obviously, but when we do, it can be a game-winning card all on its own, and that's truthfully what we saw in that game. As you mentioned, it just kind of gives you this inevitability that feels really strong. There's some value in that. And it's not a card that these decks can really get off of the battlefield either. The hand here, Thought Erasure, Shark Typhoon, Hydroid Crisis, Uro, and the necessary mana. Sure does look good, as far as hands are concerned. And you knew sooner or later we were going to get to this point, right? Because Alexander Gordon Brown's deck, I know we were talking about it in the lead-in. Who do we think was favored in this matchup? I think now, just looking deck list to deck list, I think AGB is heavily favored and definitely has an understanding about how to play the matchup. Not saying that Ishibashi doesn't, but with Gordon Brown's build of the deck, I think they played an excellent first game, and I think their build of this deck looks pretty darn good here, I must say. If you're looking to get an edge in the mirror.
Yeah, all the pieces kind of came into place there, like the right cheap ways to break serve and the right powerful cards to leverage your advantage.
So it's just Tamiyo and a bunch of lands here. One of them does cycle, fortunately, here for Ishibashi, and that Zagoth Triome. But Gordon Brown's the one who's got the better hand at this moment.
I mean, now the question on the land drop is, do you save the 2 points by playing your Watery Grave tapped, or do you try to thin your deck out a little bit by playing the Babel Passage before you cycle your Triumph? I would have gone the other way on that call. I think finding some action, even if it's just fractionally more likely, is a big deal here with how soft Ishibashi's hand is. But saving the 2 points could matter.
That's fair. Breeding Pool untapped. Big follow-up? Hello. Yo. You seen this thing?
You seen this thing?
Have you seen this thing? Unbelievable.
Who are you channeling? Is that Is that a little Chad Castell?
No. It's actually a skit from Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
It's real. I find it to be like one of the funniest skits they've ever done. Where I'll have to show. I can't really explain it that well. It's a Saturday Night Live. It's something at the what's the news desk thing that they have?
I have no idea.
It's like the weekly news desk that they do.
I find most of Saturday Night Live to be profoundly unwatchable.
I find a high amount of it to be bad. Yeah, it's the weekend update. Thank you, Director Justin. It's a weekend update skit.
I'm sympathetic to the job is really hard. It's not like trivial
you have to do it every week.
Do a live comedy show. Although I've been effectively doing it for 11 years at an extremely high level, so maybe I'm overestimating how hard it is. I don't know. But
that's very humble.
I'm not familiar.
Very humble and fair of you.
I'm not familiar with the source material.
Sure, I can. It is you. I know you respect the opinion of Tommy Stainerson Ashton. Fernando Tatis just hit a ball 500 feet. I know that you enjoy the stylings of Tommy Ashton. He finds it to be an incredible sketch, and he's the one that showed it to me.
Gotcha.
Just so you know. This is a swamp. That is an attacker 3.
Is it like funny? Like it's actually funny, or is it funny grading on the curve of like we know this is not that funny and they're trying their best? Like
no. I actually think it's funny.
Okay, great. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you after the show. I think it's legitimately funny. So, and Tommy does a great impersonation of it. So you'll probably hate it, but different strokes.
I'll give it a shot if it comes.
Hey, that's all I can ask for. Damn yo. Bang. That thing's not long for this world, but it's in for right now. Do we want to get anything back? Or do we want to try to get a little lucky? Let's try to get a little lucky. Ether Gust. Whammy. Uro in the graveyard. That's nice at least.
Have you seen this thing?
Yeah, have you seen this thing though? You hear about this thing? As soon as you'll see it, you know exactly why I'm saying it the way that I'm saying it too. I
just assumed that you were pretending to be Chad.
No.
You might just be familiar with the same sketch.
Hydroid Crisis. Talking about things. Going back and looking back at history, my friend. Mm-hmm. First open that Hydroid Crisis was legal. Back when we could play tournaments at a table. Saltai Ramp won that tournament. I remember it. We were in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
First weekend of Hydroid Crisis, won it. And perhaps the last weekend of Hydroid Crisis' legality, it will win it. And, obviously a powerful card. Took some time out of the spotlight when Wilderness Reclamation was doing its thing. But Hydroid Crisis appears to be back and better than ever.
Yeah, you can't really. There's less of an incentive to play this sort of thing when if you play your opponent commonly dunks on you so hard you never untap with your cards. What was happening in the Wilderness Reclamation metagame, but now with that no longer part of it, it has an opportunity to shine again.
Yes, it does. Lemonade's going to take care of that. Uro plays a weird role in these matchups. It's obviously powerful, but it's not the card that runs away with the game, right? Do you think I'm right about that?
Well, it has windows of doing that. Usually the game gets determined on a shorter timeline by one of the Planeswalkers, but it has its moments. I would say that it was the key runaway in game number 1. Not it just went unchecked for a million turns, but the advantage accrued was way too much for Ishibashi to overcome.
Okay. Because there are games obviously where, you're playing against an aggro deck and they play Uro and it's just I can't kill it, you win. Right? And so it takes one, they get it back, they can't attack anymore, the Uro attacks, and then the game is basically over.
It's also one of the cards that can trump Nissa is a big part of it too. Your 6/6 that's threatening to attack Nissa against their sea of 3/3s, you can actually pull ahead in those spots. And Nissa's typically that's the where the action hinges on is that card.
Well, speaking of Uro, it's back. Can land on the battlefield. We might just tap out for Hydroid Crisis now too. Put a land out there. I guess it's good to hold this back in the holster. But this Ether Gust, Not going to do all that much, folks. 28-6. Alexander Gordon. I mean, this has been... You and I have covered some dominant displays. Gottlieb identified it pretty quickly when he watched the match with Alexander Gordon Brown when we were on break, and he said, I really like the build of this deck and what's going on here. And I agree quite a bit. I think this is an innovative build. It would have been very easy to copy-paste something with more removal spells and everything else, blah, blah, blah. But, like, no. Different take.
It wasn't... Gordon Brown obviously went through a ton of the mirror to get to this spot. These games were... Neither game was particularly competitive. And Ishibashi had fine draws. I mean, they weren't spectacular, but you can't just chalk it up to, you just flooded out or you just missed land drops or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they got to play. Cyclotrion. And draw. So, let's see, you're at 9. You gust the Krasis, you block there. I'm still looking at lethal.
Gordon Brown's draw wasn't even that good.
It was a fine draw, but it wasn't anything.
It was not
absurd.
even like that spectacular.
Yeah.
Although this is the type of matchup where I don't know what that really means because the different cards have different spots of being good that are kind of predicated on what the other person's doing. So it's not like an easy analysis, but the draw was not that good.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We're going ultimate. After floating some mana.
2 hard cast Shark Typhoons in game number 1.
It's beautiful.
Nissa Ultimate game number 2. Don't say you didn't get your money's worth.
Yeah. Pluck, pluck, pluck. Land. Beatdowns, trigger. What are we going to see? Are we going to see a gust before blocks? Perhaps. There's your block. I guess negate can take care of something too. Yeah. How's no sound? How about a hard no? That's it, folks. This is a beatdown. This is a wall-to-wall beatdown here by Alexander Gordon Brown, your winner of today's StarCityGames.com champion.